sat there and let you talk. I sat there and took up for you.
Hello and welcome to Happily Ever Reality. I'm so glad you're here. Today we're talking about 90 Day Fiancé, The Last Resort, Episode 3. This episode starts off where the last one left off, and that is with Molly, Kelly, Liz, and Ed, and Angela all in a hot tub that is way too small for this group. At the end of the last episode, there was starting to be a little bit of a disagreement between Kelly and Ed. You could tell they just weren't getting along and it was starting to escalate. So we start off with that. Honestly, I cannot tell you exactly what the argument is about, but I believe it just focuses on Ed's personality, and Kelly is sort of, at conflict with Ed. And so they're divided up. Angela is sticking up for Ed. Liz really isn't. She's sort of not saying too much and staying out of it. And then Molly and Kelly are kind of on the same side. Everyone's starting to get disrespectful, and Kelly ends up deciding just to get out of the pool because it seems like Ed is actually wanting to start a fight, like a physical fight with Kelly, and Kelly is having no part of it. I will tell you, the more I watch this show, the more I like Kelly. Like, the more I like him. He just is not going to engage in this sort of stuff. He's done. He's walking away. Molly gets out of the pool with him, and almost immediately after, Liz leaves as well. There is a part where Liz asks Kelly to get a towel for her, and Kelly says no. Like, he's not even going to get a towel for Liz. He says, have your man do it. And of course he's saying, have Ed do it. They're just not getting along that well. And I'm going to throw in a clip of Ed talking about himself after Kelly leaves.
I know better. Like, I know when I need to keep my mouth shut, but...
Oh, I don't know if I believe that. I don't know if Ed knows when to keep his mouth shut. But he does go on to say that a part of it is because he was always bullied growing up, and he feels like now he's always trying to defend himself, and he didn't really have a lot of people defend him. So I think he's just, he's always a bit defensive. Angela has stuck up for Ed while they were out there, and Ed is really thankful for that. He ends up saying during a confessional that he doesn't understand why Liz doesn't stick up for him the way that Angela does, and it completely blows my mind. They've only been back together. Liz and Ed have only been back together 2 weeks. That's what they said at the beginning of this show. And before that, they were separated because of what he did during the tell-all from the last show. We all remember when Ed had to admit to talking to Rose, and then he looked at Liz and said, give me the ring back. He had no concern for her. She was probably hurt and humiliated, and it was all on TV to watch over and over again. And now he doesn't understand why Liz isn't sticking up for him. I'm going to throw in a clip here of Liz talking about how Ed runs his mouth. And she is basically saying the exact opposite of what Ed said about himself. She's pointing out that he runs his mouth and there's no consequences. Here's her talking about Ed.
Ed does tend to run his mouth a lot, and Ed's got to learn his consequences.
I think Ed thinks he has more self-control than he does, and Liz is right. There's never any consequence to what Ed says. He just gets away with running his mouth all the time. So maybe on this show he's going to realize that he needs to stop. But honestly, I doubt it. Let's be real about this. Him running his mouth is almost... It's almost his career. It's how he keeps ending up on TLC shows. Liz ends up getting out of the pool right after Molly and Kelly. We see Molly and Kelly walking away, and they're sort of picking on Ed. And it feels like for a moment they're going to actually sort of have this reconnection, all because of this argument with Ed. And then it falls apart, and Molly points out that Kelly doesn't always stick up for her. And he says that he does, and he will. He's always going to be there for her, and she just disagrees with that. She says that's not who he is. He's only being this way in this moment on the show, but in real life, she doesn't feel like he's proactive and that she can count on him. So it quickly falls apart, and Molly ends up going into her room, and Kelly says that this whole thing is just a waste. So back at the hot tub, you would think things would be going well because it's just Liz who's exiting the area. She's out of the hot tub. She's walking away. She's over at the beach. But it's not, because Angela is trying to get her to stay there and talk to Ed, but Liz doesn't want to. And Liz ends up saying, I'm not going to stay here and talk to him because you'll talk over me. And this completely triggers Angela, and it brings out the Angela that we all have come to know And I'm not going to say no and like, because I definitely do not like it when she is yelling and in people's faces. And I'm not a fan of her because of her actions when she is being aggressive. And so in the last 2 episodes, I felt like Angela really held it together, but she just snaps here. She gets out of the hot tub. Ed is also out of the hot tub now. They start following Liz. She is really mad that Liz said that, she talks over her. She is cussing. She is yelling. I would put the clips in here, but there's so many words that are beeped out anyway. She ends up in Liz's face. I have some screenshots I'm going to show you if you didn't watch the show, but I mean, she is in her face, like right in her face, screaming. Ed is trying to calm her down. So it looks like maybe some of the camera people are trying to get her to calm down. She just goes off the deep end, and it completely floors me because it wasn't even that big of a deal. Was it nice of Liz to say that? No. Would somebody be upset if they said that? Yes. But Angela jumping out and being as mad as she is, I don't know if it was the atmosphere, the alcohol, if it's just Angela, but it's in those moments where I'm like, Angela shouldn't even be on TV. She is a risk to everyone around her. She wants to fight. She wanted Liz to hit her. She was ready to go. And I don't know. This is the part where I'm watching shows with Angela on it, and I'm like, man, I do not like this, and I don't want to see any more of her. This is how she used to treat Michael. I didn't enjoy seeing that either. She crosses the line where she's not funny. It's not entertaining. It's like, this is kind of gross feeling. I don't want to watch this. So I was disappointed to see it go in that direction. But yeah, there's some images up there and screenshots if you haven't watched the show yet. After this, they go over to Kalani and Asuelu, and there's just a scene of them talking about their relationship and how they're going to try to work on it. Asuelu asks Kalani if he can have a hug, and she says yes. There's not really a lot there. I still don't know if I think Kalani really is interested in making this work. I think she feels like she needs to for her kids. I just don't think the maturity matches up between her and Asuelu. I just don't think in the long run it's going to work. And I think she does kind of like this other guy. She didn't want to end the talking to the other guy. She said she would, but I still wonder if she really wants to. I just don't see it working. I don't know. Let me know what you guys think in the comments. After this, they go over to Jovi and Yara. Now, remember in the last episode, Yara admitted that she was taking birth control and she felt pressure to have a second baby, even though she didn't want to. So things are kind of tense between the two of them. They are together for a dinner. Yara seems to be trying to make things more comfortable between the two of them, but it is just not going to happen. Jovi is really upset. He is shocked by the news that she is on birth control, but it seems like he's just more upset that she didn't feel like she could tell him that. And then there is this additional layer where Jovi doesn't feel comfortable sharing everything in a group setting. He doesn't want to share these things during a group therapy session. He wants some things to be private.
I feel like this is a breach of my privacy. I don't think Yara realizes that this group confessional can damage our trust with each other.
I think there's 2 layers to that. I think that one, Jovi doesn't want to share things in this group setting, which is natural. Some people are more private than other people and don't want to share in that way. But I think the second part of this is that Jovi didn't take this seriously. I think they were going there for a paycheck, going to stay, on a TLC show. I don't think this was supposed to be serious, and then Yara is taking it seriously. So I just don't think he was ready to go and really share things the way that she was. I also think that there is an issue with Yara feeling like Jovi has all of the power. She talks about how she tries to earn money and do things that she wants to do, and how Jovi will tell her that she's doing great, but then she can't make the decisions. Like, she feels pressured to have another baby. She feels like she can't go get an apartment in Europe so that she can be near her family. I don't always like the things that Yara says and does, but I do feel like she feels like there's no control. And she actually says that she didn't want to do this one-on-one because she wasn't comfortable, and she didn't want to do this back at home near Mila. So clearly at home, she doesn't feel like she can say what she needs to say to him. After the dinner is over, Jovi goes for a walk and Yara heads back to their room, and the cameras go back to Liz and Ed, and things just take a really weird turn.
Liz, you got what you deserved.
Yes, you heard that right. Ed starts telling Liz that she got what she deserved, and it's crazy to me because I think Liz stayed really calm. But it seems like Ed enjoyed that this whole thing happened and that Angela was in her face yelling at her. He seemed to really enjoy it. In the end, it's just the two of them during this scene sort of going back and forth. Liz pointing out how calm she was and Ed saying that she wasn't and that she deserved it and she didn't stick up for him. And it's ridiculous. I hope Liz just leaves. Like, if she had grabbed her bags and walked out of there, I would have been like, good for her, because it's crazy how much he seemed to enjoy that she got yelled at and had this woman in her face screaming at her. Any part of me that was sticking up for Ed and Angela before, I'm just like, no, it's done. The two of them are just awful. They're just awful to watch. I wish Liz would have left, and I cannot understand why she keeps coming back into Ed's life or why she keeps picking up the phone when Ed calls. I don't know what is going on there. I can't wrap my head around it. If you know, feel free to let me know in the comments. After this, we see Jovi and Yara. It's the next morning, and we find out that instead of going and having a drink and taking a walk and coming back, he had found Angela, I guess, in a bar. There must have been some sort of restaurant there or bar somewhere. But Jovi found Angela and they ended up drinking together and going back and trying to wake Yara and get her up out of bed. Well, this did not go well with Yara. She didn't get out of bed. She wanted to sleep. And then Angela went outside and Yara says Angela played her boombox really loud outside and it was rude, and there were other guests in the hotel that they should have considered. And I can kind of see Yara's point at like 2 a.m. or 3 a.m., whenever, it was at that point, going out and just blaring music, kind of rude. But again, Angela was probably all hyped up after her fight with Liz that had happened earlier in the evening. So Yara is telling Jovi that, he was being rude. He shouldn't have done that. He should have came back to the room. And then, of course, he kind of turns it around on her. Well, you're not doing what you're supposed to do. You're lying about the birth control. They're just not getting along well right now. She does throw in a line about the fact that he needs to go to rehab, and it is really him that's the problem. I wonder if there's going to be more about that. We know in the past, Jovi and Yara have had issues where she says that he parties too much. So I'm going to be interested in seeing if that is brought up in the show. There is also this scene. I have seen that moment all over social media. TLC has really used that to their advantage. It implied that there was another woman in the bed with them, or that Jovi had brought a woman into their bed, but really it was Angela coming near the bed to try to wake Yara up. But TLC really tried to fool us with that one. So Jovi and Yara are not doing well this morning, but neither are Ed and Liz. We see Ed wake up, go over to the couch where Liz is sleeping, and he wants to talk about what happened the night before. It immediately just starts to escalate. It's not a calm conversation. Ed doesn't want to talk about the things that Liz wants to talk about because he only wants to focus in on how Angela stuck up for him and how Liz didn't stick up for him. So Liz gets really frustrated and she walks off. Another couple not doing well. And then we also see Angela having to meet with one of the therapists on the show to talk about what happened the night before. Basically, the therapist calls Angela out for how she acted the night before, though the therapist does a really good job of complimenting Angela and being kind when she talks about it. But in the end, Angela does admit that she might have some things to work on.
And maybe I have some fixing to do too, maybe.
So Angela agrees that she needs to work on some of her aggressive behavior. And then we flip back over to watching Liz call her mom. So Liz has left the hotel room that she has with Ed and she's walked out onto the beach. She calls her mom. Her mom sounds really funny, but I think her mom doesn't realize how, her mom really can't see how Ed is acting. Her mom is telling her to walk away when Ed is trying to argue with her, and that will give her the upper hand. But in this situation, Liz walked away, upset, crying, and Ed sat down on a bed and ate a breakfast sandwich. I don't know what will work with Ed. I don't know if anything will. But her mom does make her feel a bit better, and Liz ends up going back to the room and tells Ed that he needs to listen. He needs to stop talking and listen to her. And she tells him that he's hurt her and, she's not going to keep trying if he does not learn to stop and listen. She brings up Angela and how Angela always talks over other people. And that is sort of where the show ends. Now, before in this video, I do want to put in a clip of Liz's mom talking.
He doesn't like it, then he needs to step up and be a man instead of a douche.
That summed up my feelings, but I don't think Ed is ever going to change. I don't think it's going to be because of Liz in this show. It kind of works for Ed. Again, I feel like this is his career. He's running his mouth, he's getting attention for it, and he's getting paid. So why would he change? But that is where the show ends. There's no group therapy or anything. Like none of that happens in this episode. We're seeing just sort of the day following when they did the exercise where they had to go through the obstacle course. So that is it. Let me know what you guys thought of this in the comments. Are you team Liz or team Ed and Angela? Let me know. And I should have a video up next week about the next episode. I hope you like and subscribe if you haven't already, and come back to Happily Ever Reality.